Alright, what we're doing today is we are going to change the oil on this 2011 Toyota Sienna. Should be very similar for any of these Toyota vehicles with the 2GR-FE engine. I always like to check my oil before I change it, just see what the level is, and it's still right at full. So you know, in close to 10,000 miles it's been since oil changes. It hasn't leaked or burned any oil, so that's good to know. I run full synthetic on it. I use the recommended 0W20 oil that Toyota recommends for these, and I use Mobile One. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and jack up the car just a little bit, just to give us a little more room underneath, and then we will get up underneath it, and we'll need to undo the oil drain plug and the filter housing. One thing that will make this job easier is one of these. This is a this goes on the filter housing. You can use a filter wrench on here, but that's what I've done previously. But I went ahead and picked up one of these because it's always a struggle to get that filter housing off. This takes a cartridge filter, and yes, I do run a Fram on it. These ultra synthetics are actually decent filters. I don't know that I would buy a canister Fram filter in any. I think even these test pretty good in the canisters, but I don't know. But this is a cartridge, and the Fram cartridge filters actually seem to be pretty good filters, and these have, of course, synthetic filter material. And you can do some research on these. These actually test out really well. So I got no problems running one of those. And they say they're good for 20,000, but I only go 10,000. So whatever Toyota recommends, I think it's 10,000 when the light comes on. So we're gonna go ahead and jack it up, and we'll take the filter housing, and I'll show y'all a few tips on that. Alright, we're up under here. I've got a jack under this side and then a stand, just to make sure the jack doesn't come down. And we're going to be working, this is the passenger side. The driver's side, you have the transmission. That's the transmission pan. So you want to be over here on the passenger side. You've got your oil filter housing right here. Now, you look at this and you think, hey, that's to get the housing off. Well, not really. This is a plug to drain the filter housing. So this comes off of the main housing or cap, or whatever you want to call this. So you can take this off. Of course, it just fits a 3/8 like that. But I find I don't bother with doing that. I save myself a step. It's gonna make a mess with the oil if you don't take this out, you know, because as soon as you loosen this up, it's going to start draining down. But pretty much any canister oil filter does that anyway, and so I really don't mind, you know, that oil drains down here. You know, put my pan underneath it, it catches it, and that saves me the step of having to take this plug out. Most oil filter kits do come with this O-ring and the larger one, but you know, if I don't loosen this, I don't have to change that O-ring, you know. So I don't mess with it. I leave it alone, and I just undo it here. Like I said, you know, you can get a filter wrench on here, like the strap style. That's what I've been doing. It's just kind of difficult because this is kind of recessed in. The oil pan sticks out lower. All this is lower, so you got to kind of get it at an angle. It's just kind of difficult. where one of these comes in handy. You see it's got this notch here and this notch here, and it's also got the hex, what do you want to call it, that fits in here. Those notches actually go up in there. So you've got 2 points where it's catching. It's catching on here and it's catching on these little tabs. And so it really locks in there and makes getting this out easier. You just put your ratchet on it. And just like that. Much easier than trying to get a strap wrench on here and get this undone. And for whatever reason, that O-ring gets really tight, and this is very hard to break loose. My strap wrench would slip sometimes, and it was one of the ones that, you know, it's got a hinge right here so it pivots down, but still it would strap on there and slip. So I went ahead and just bit the bullet, bought the right one. You know, you could buy cheaper ones that just catch this part, you know, that are made of like thin tin, and there's also plastic ones, but I went ahead and bought what I consider the right tool for the right job. You know, this is good, and I think it was like $14. So I mean, it's not like it's crazy expensive. Maybe it was 16. I'll put a link in the description. It may have been 16. So that's how you get the housing off. How you get the, and here's the oil plug back here, and you want to put a new gasket on it each time you change the oil. So make sure you have one of those. Pretty much any auto parts store carries them. And then you're gonna need a 14mm wrench. So I like to start with that because it takes it a while to drain. And then I let it drain, and after it gets done, I'll put the plug in and move on to the oil filter. So let me go ahead and get this plug out. Got my drain pan, and we'll let it drain. Alright, drain plugs back in. And our pan's barely big enough. These are the gaskets I use. I need to get some more, but just use my last one. You can get these pretty much anywhere. I think Amazon has them. A local auto parts store carries them. Just the blue little gasket, and replace them every time you change the oil. See? Always change drain plug gasket at every oil change. So now got to get this filter housing out. I've already started taking it off, and I figured that'd be something y'all would like to see. See how easy this thing makes it. Alright, and see, now it's starting to, you know, leak the oil out. If I took this center part off first, it would have drained the oil out. But like I said, I just skipped a step. It really doesn't make that big of a mess. You let it just run like this for a minute, and it'll drain that housing out. Pretty much the same thing I do for canister oil filters. Once oil starts running down the side, I let it go until it, you know, drains out. So we're gonna let this drain for a few minutes till it stops dripping. And well, I got gloves on. Let's just hurry this up. Camera's rolling. We'll just do it quick. Doesn't make that big of a mess. gloves are nice to have for this. And I dump it and drain the filter housing out. I got an old rag handy to set the one of my legs of my tripod's on it. Got an old oily rag to set the housing on. Now, what you've got here, this is your old filter. Well, let's get this out and we'll get it cleaned up before we pull the filter off. Alright, so here's our filter housing. I'm just going to take it and we'll take and clean it up just a little bit. I got a clean rag here. Like I said, if you pull that center plug out, it wouldn't get so dirty, but to me it's quicker just to, wear gloves. Like I said, I don't really care if oil gets on them, and just clean this thing up afterwards, and that saves you from having to take this off and change the O-ring on it. So, got that. So now what we need to do is take this filter out, and it just pulls out. This one's kind of stuck. There it goes. So there's our old filter. So I'm going to put this in a bag. But you want to take, see there's a gap right here in this housing. So you just take your pick we got a little bit of oil in the bottom of it, so we'll go ahead and just let that drain out into our pan. There we go. So, like I said, this thing comes with stuff. I think this actually threads on in there to direct the flow, or I don't know. I don't ever use it. And of course, if you did pull that plug, here's your new O-ring for it. But we've got this one. I'm going to just take this O-ring and just kind of get some of my old oil on it. Use a clean oil pan. So now we've got our O-ring lubricated, and I just roll it on. You don't want to stretch it too much, so just roll it so it rolls on. There we go. So it's lubricated and it's on. So now take our new filter, and on this one there's no up and down or anything on it. I always put it where I can see the numbers though, just like this, and so that's going to go on there. Alright, like I said, we've got our new filter. The O-ring's got stuff on it. Maybe I should show y'all what it actually goes up in. So if you look, see, center of that filter goes up in there and seals. That little pipe sticking out there. Alright. So, put it straight up in the middle. Start it on there. And then I take this so I can get a good grip. And that's as tight as I put it. Hand tight. Tight as I can get it with my hand. So now we just got to put new oil in it. Alright, so we've got our oil filter on, got our drain plug in. Drain plug's tight, oil filter housings on. Now we can go ahead and put new oil in it. So I've got a clean funnel. We'll put 4 quarts in and check it. I don't actually remember how many this thing takes. It was like 5 or 6 quarts. And then after we get it to where it's reading full, we'll start it up, let it run for a minute, and we'll check it again, because after it fills up that oil filter housing, it's going to need a little bit more oil. We're about 3/4 a quart low. So go ahead, I'll just leave y'all where you're sitting. Take that back off. Got our funnel, I had it sitting on the rag so it's still clean. And we'll add about 3/4 of a quart. Just look at the measurements on the side of the jug. It's about 1/2 a quart. It's right at 3/4 a quart. So we'll go ahead and check it again. Wipe it off. And we are right at the fill line. So our total oil add was right at, let's see, check that again. Yeah, we're right at the full line. It's hard to tell. See if I can show you on camera. You can see the oil breaks up right here. The last solid we've got, it's right across there. Of course it's broken up there too, but yeah, it's hard to tell on camera. So about 6.5 quarts. Yeah. Came out real good that time. See it? Alright, come on, focus. There we go. See? good solid. Well, there we go. Stopping right at that upper level. Alright, we are done. I just need to go reset the maintenance light.